Physical Fitness for Diving by Dr. Neil Pollock, performed by Dr. Frans Cronje. The physical fitness requirements for diving depend on a number of factors. While this makes establishing a single standard quite challenging, it can also lead to an interesting discussion. At the most basic level, divers need to be able to easily meet the normal demands of diving, with a fitness reserve sufficient to meet any additional demands of emergencies. Environmental conditions dramatically influence these normal demands. Calm, warm tropical waters are generally far less taxing than colder waters. The requirements increase as equipment, sea state, and entry and exit conditions intensify. Diver skill also plays a major role in determining the demands of a dive. A diver with excellent buoyancy control, wearing minimum ballast weight, will work far less than a diver fighting improper weighting or having less refined buoyancy control. Similar issues exist in establishing reasonable physical fitness buffers to handle emergency demands. Similar issues exist in establishing reasonable physical fitness buffers to handle emergency demands. Environmental conditions, equipment worn, proximity to a safe exit, available surface support, and even the body's physical fitness, size, and skill have influence. While the highest level of physical fitness is desired, a practical approach is to consider minimum competencies. So how does one evaluate physical fitness? A review of health history may be sufficient for healthy, active individuals. Functional fitness tests help ensure that a person is fit for diving. These can often be conducted in a pool or in open water. Laboratory-based tests of physical capacity may be appropriate if there is a poor history of physical activity, or concerns about safety during performance tests, or the presence of potential medical issues. What constitutes functional fitness testing? Well, this has natural relevance in the real-world activity. One simple series was proposed to evaluate recreational divers. In this, divers should demonstrate the following abilities: to lift and carry individual items of diving equipment on land, to stand from sitting and walk 30 meters in standard scuba equipment, to ascend 1.5 meters on a vertical ladder from the water wearing standard scuba equipment, and finning underwater at about 1 kilometer per hour or half a knot for 30 minutes, or 2.2 kilometers per hour, that's 1.2 knots, for 3 minutes, wearing standard scuba gear. Another approach was proposed for scientific divers, focusing on reserve capacities. Evaluations followed a routine dive to start with average fatigue levels. Since open water environments are not available year-round in all places, a pool modification was provided. Translating the test results. Aerobic capacity is defined as the maximum amount of oxygen that can be consumed per unit of time. This is classically determined with a continuous progressive test to the point of exhaustion. While this is too involved for general use, the so-called VO2 max is a standard for referencing overall fitness. More complicated units exist, and these can be referred to in the article by the same name. Divers with good buoyancy control should work fairly little during a typical dive. A skilled diver swimming at no more than half a knot would be working at about 3 METs, or 3 times baseline metabolic rate. A diver maintaining a pace of 2.2 kilometers or 1.2 knots would be in the 10 to 12 MET range. We inferred work rate from open circuit gas consumption during 959 recreational dives, and so conservatively estimated the average of about 5 METs. How should one get fit for diving? Well, the key to being physically fit is to stay generally fit and active. The goal is to build and maintain reserves to delay the point at which activity patterns have to decline. Optimally, divers will be significantly physically active daily and bolster this with 30 to 60 minutes of training quality activity 3 to 4 times a week. A mix of activities is generally best to reduce the risk of injury and boredom. Physical training should target 3 key areas: strength, aerobic capacity, and flexibility. Low-impact activities reduce the risk of injury, and activities that involve water provide the added benefit of improving comfort in the diving medium. Field measures of physical fitness. We conduct field evaluations of diver physical fitness as part of many of our research studies, and we record a variety of measures to provide a snapshot for participants, often motivating them to improve their numbers. Here are some of them. Body mass index. Body mass index is not a measure of body composition, it is simply a ratio of the weight to height. Weight in kilograms divided by the square root of the height in meters. This means BMI is used to predict body composition, since it's more common for an increase to reflect an accumulation of fat than lean tissue. While it's convenient, BMI can provide a poor estimate on an individual basis, which requires common sense for interpretation. With this caution in mind, those with BMI values outside the desirable range should have their body composition evaluated. If the BMI is as a result of excess fat, lifestyle changes that incorporate additional exercise are recommended. Waist to hip ratio. A high waist to hip ratio, or WHR, which means having more girth in the midsection, may indicate an increased risk for developing heart disease. WHR standards are age-dependent. Ratios can generally be improved by modifying exercises and dietary patterns. Body fat. A certain amount of body fat is required to maintain health. Too much fat, however, puts strain on the heart and other systems. A slow upward creep in body fat with age is quite common and can become problematic. The best way to reduce excess body fat is to combine diet with exercise. Dieting alone will also result in a loss of muscle tissue and a reduction in metabolic rate. This ultimately will make excess weight come back faster. Numerous formulas can predict the percentage of body fat using different skin fold measures. Push-up capacity. Push-up capacity is a convenient measure of strength. The normal data require military push-ups through a range of motions from full extension to elbow bent at 90 degrees. After starting from the upright position with elbows extended, the push-ups are done at a steady pace until they can no longer be continued. This can be improved with training. Sit-up capacity can be tested in a similar way. It's a useful measure of strength, but it's important to note that the norms are based on a style of sit-up that should be used only for testing. Anchoring the feet flat on a floor allows a strong hip flexor, the so-called psoas major muscle, to power the movement instead of the abdominal muscles, potentially increasing back discomfort. Crunches are more appropriately done from the starting position with the thighs perpendicular to the floor and calves lying unanchored across a chair or similar surface to make the movement reliant on the abdominal muscles rather than the psoas muscles. Grip strength is another simple measure of strength. The dominant hand will often score 10% higher than the non-dominant hand. As with the many tests we use, comparison of an individual pre- and post-training is useful. Pulmonary function. Lung function is essential to good health. The inability to empty the lungs rapidly and inflate them normally can indicate the presence of obstruction or restrictive pulmonary disease. Normal values vary substantially with age, gender, and height. There are 4 measures that are commonly employed. The forced vital capacity, which is the maximum amount that can be exhaled, which is usually about 80% of the total lung capacity. The forced expiratory volume in 1 second, which represents the amount that can be exhaled in 1% and is typically 80% of the forced vital capacity. The forced expiratory flow at 25 to 75%, which means when the lungs are pretty much in the mid-range of emptying. And the maximum voluntary ventilation, which represents the maximum amount of air a person can in and exhale in 15 seconds. It reflects the strength and endurance of the respiratory muscles. Urine concentration. Urine concentration is not a measure of hydration, but a complete 24-hour collection can be very useful. Conclusions. The physical demands on a skilled diver can be modest, but the possibility of extreme emergency demands make it essential to maintain ample physical fitness reserves. This requires honest evaluation and commitment to preserving healthy capacities. Incorporating physical activity into normal lifestyle is a powerful way of maintaining those capabilities. For references and tables, consult the article in Alert Diver on Physical Fitness for Diving by Dr. Neil Pollock.